Good afternoon, all of you. We continue ICH GCP guidelines. We were discussed in deep about the responsibilities of investigators in the previous discussions. Now we are going to continue from the responsibilities defined for sponsors. Sponsors are the financially supporting organization or an individual or a team. They are responsible for the clinical research and they are only getting on their name only the approval is given, and they are only appointing investigators, and the sponsors are responsible for recruited study subjects and their rights, safety, everything. So sponsors' responsibility is wider to compare with investigators' responsibility. So their responsibilities are very well defined in ICH GCP guidelines. So according to this guideline, they have to take extreme care to maintain their responsible job and also maintain related documents. And if anything fails from the standards prescribed, then they are only responsible for that. So that is why the responsibilities are defined under guidelines. Section 5 is for sponsor responsibility. In an individual, a sponsor may be an individual or a company or an institution or an organization which takes responsibility for the initiation of the clinical trial, management of the clinical trial, and for financing of the clinical trial. So that team only we are calling sponsor. So we don't need to think that sponsor means one person. Maybe a company, an organization, and pharma industry, and research organization, an institution. Implementing and maintaining quality assurance, quality controls systems with written standard operating procedures to ensure good clinical practices and compliance to good clinical practices. All the activities will be done. So that is the overall responsibility of sponsor. They have to ensure, they have to give facilities to practice good clinical practices. Securing agreements from all sides for monitoring, auditing, inspecting. So that is the overall responsibility of sponsor. They have to have mutual agreement with the institution where the research is going on, study centers, and any contract organizations enrolled in this and study team and contract between many other associated organizations which are supporting this clinical trial, and also with the regulatory authorities, mutual understanding, and based on the approval granted, they have to submit necessary documents then and there required. This is all responsibility of sponsor. Quality control of data handling. Every stage we have to ensure the quality. That is sponsor's responsibility. Payment agreements, payment for the study subjects, compensations for insurance claim, and employees recruited in this study, for everybody we have to pay. That all is paid. CRO, contract research organizations. A person or an organization, commercially or academic oriented or other category organizations, they will be in contract with the sponsor to perform one or more of an sponsor's trial related duties and functions. So that is accepted by regulatory authorities. We have to tell in the beginning only where the studies are going to be conducted and which are the organizations going to support. So which is the contract organization they are going to support a part of the study that will be informed to regulatory authorities. The contract between the sponsor and the organization, contract organization, will be established by a proper agreement. However it may be, the standards will be maintained there also. Sponsor may transfer all or some duties to contract research organizations. They can give entire job or a part of the job to contract research organization. Then also the sponsor is responsible for the entire study. Ultimate responsibility for quality lies with the sponsor. Wherever you proceed, whoever you do the experiment, sponsor is responsibility. They have sponsor should ensure the quality everywhere. Document of all duty delegations. So the sponsors are responsible for the entire document maintained during the study period. And apart from this, Section 5 continues the responsibilities of sponsor. They have to ensure the trial related documents and the design of the trial, how it should be going to be conducted. So for that, they are only responsible. Trial management, data handling, investigator selection, appointing investigators, and with by finding their necessary qualifications and experiences. That is the job of sponsor. Financing entire activity to establish necessary equipment, facilities, all later financing. Submission to regulatory authorities. Every stage reports will be submitted. Reports will be generated by investigators. It should be submitted with the knowledge of sponsors. Confirmation of review by IRBs. Confirmation of review by IRBs, Institutional Review Board report. Then and there it should be received. As per the report only, the next level of the study should be continued. So that should be ensured by sponsor. Information on investigational products. So their related safety related informations, all dose related information, storage related information that should be passed to all the study community. Everybody should know that, because it is nowhere we get this in the monograph. We don't get the details of study related investigational products related informations. So that should be collected and provided to the scientific community as a responsibility of sponsors. Then manufacturing, labeling, packaging, coding of products. That is the investigational product. Manufacturing as per the procedures and maintaining their purity levels, and then making proper dosage forms, administering all, making it ready for administering. All these responsibilities of sponsor. In their supervision only it should be done. Safety evaluation, ensuring safety in all the experimental level, all the experiments, finding the safety and reports, generating a report and submitting to the regulatory authority related to safety. That is the responsibility of sponsor. Monitoring, the act of overseeing the progress of a clinical trial and of ensuring that it is conducted, recorded, and reported in accordance with the protocol, standard operating procedures, good clinical practices, and the applicable regulatory requirements. So that is actually the study is conducted by investigators, but it should be supervised by, overseeing the progress by sponsor. So sponsor should ensure in all the level, all the study related regulations are followed. That should be maintained related documents, documentary evidences should be collected and preserved. Okay. In section wise, if you see the responsibility of sponsor, 5.0 is about quality management. There is the overall responsibility of sponsor, and then section 5 under that subsection 1, critical process and data identification. In that, during protocol development, the sponsor should identify those processes and data that are critical to ensure human subject protection and the reliability of trial results. So we have to find out suitable endpoints that may indicate that this experiment gives a proper satisfactory result. Like that, we keep some satisfactory values, whether we are reaching or what in all the stages, that will be ensured by sponsor. So that may indicate that the subjects were protected. The values are not deviating from the standard value. So that should be ensured by sponsor. Risk identification, the sponsor should identify risk to critical trial processes and data. Risk should be considered at both the system level Example, standard operating procedures, computerized system, personnel, and clinical trial level. Example, trial design, data collection, informed consent processes. So in this both, risk evaluation is the responsibility of sponsor. The sponsor should evaluate the identified risks against existing risk control by considering the likelihood of errors occurring, the possibility of errors to occur, and extent to which such errors would be deductible. How much percentage of error can be deductible? The impact of such error on human subject, whether it leads to a serious problem or a very minor problem. Like that, the risk level should be assessed. That data should be collected. Should be informed to the regulatory authorities in all the ways by sponsor. Then risk control is the responsibility of sponsor. The sponsor should decide which risk should be reduced and which risk can be acceptable. The risk is very minimum, like that the decisions has to be done by sponsors. That should be communicated to the IRB and regulatory authorities, and necessary approval to be taken. Risk communication. The sponsor should document quality management activities. The sponsor should communicate quality management activities to those who are involved in or affected by such activities, to facilitate risk review and continual improvement during clinical trial execution. The sponsor should inform to the regulatory authorities also about the serious adverse events. Also, the study subjects enrolled, to everyone it should be informed. That is the responsibility of sponsor. Risk review. The sponsor should periodically review risk control measures to ascertain whether the implemented quality management activities remain effective and relevant, taking into account emerging knowledge and experience. So they have to assess it then and there whether as per the prediction only the problem is there or it is beyond our control. That should be always measured, and the risk review should be done and documented. Risk reporting. Beyond our control, if there is any adverse drug reactions observed, any serious problem found, any death, anything occur among the study subjects, then risk reporting. The sponsor should describe the quality management approach implemented in the trial and summarize important deviations from the predefined quality tolerance limits and why this deviation occur. That related information to be submitted. To the regulatory authority. Next, medical expertise. The sponsor should appoint qualified medical personnel who will be readily available to advise us on trial related medical questions and problems. Whenever it is arising between study community, the investigating team or with the study subjects, that should be clarified by medical experts appointed by sponsors. Trial design. The sponsor is only responsible, not the investigators, for trial design. Qualified individuals, biostatisticians, clinical pharmacologists, and physicians should be appointed with the appropriate qualifications and experience throughout all stages of the trial process. So that is the responsibility of sponsor. And then trial management and data handling, record keeping, independent data monitoring committee is all comes under the responsibility of sponsors. They have to supervise the overall conduct of the trial, to handle the data, whom should handle the data, up to what extent they can access the data. So that is all controlled by sponsors. To verify the data, to conduct the statistical analysis, that should be a parallel progress. So then only you will come to know that the work is going on as per the expectation or any deviations. And to prepare trial reports, it's all responsibilities of sponsor. The sponsor should utilize appropriate qualified individuals to supervise the overall conduct. The sponsor may consider establishing an independent data monitoring committee, IDMC. So they will assess the progress of the clinical trial, including the safety data and the critical efficacy endpoints of at intervals, and to recommend to the sponsor whether to continue or to modify the work or to stop the trial. So these all will be decided based on the reports generated by IDMC, Independent Data Monitoring Committee, which will be under the supervision of sponsor. So that collected information should be communicated to the regulatory authorities then and there. The IDMC should have written operating procedures and maintain written records of all its meetings. When using electronic trial data handling and remote electronic trial data system, the sponsor should ensure the documents that the electronic data processing system conforms to the sponsor's established requirements to completeness, accuracy, reliability, and consistent intended performance. So we have to validate the available electronic form of data maintenance, whether it maintains the privacy of the data, whether the data retrievable at all the stage, the data safety, how it is ensured. So the accuracy and reliability of the data, completeness of the data, all should be ensured by the sponsor. And there is an additional responsibility was later added, that is called addendum in the sponsor's responsibility later to this. The sponsor should base their approach to validation of such system on a risk assessment that takes into consideration the intended use of the system and the potential of the system to affect human subject protection and the reliability of trial results. So the electronic system of data handling, how, in what way it ensures the safety of the trial subjects participating. What extent we can believe this system and the results and the inputs derived from the system. So that should be validated by the sponsor. That is a later on addendum. This. And the sponsor are overall responsible for selecting the investigating team and allocating duties for the enrolled subjects. Collecting and maintaining information on the investigational product. And safety informations, adverse drug reaction reporting, these all comes under the responsibility of sponsors. Okay, we continue in our next class.